both came to law school. I think we both had very broad idea of what public interest meant. I was lucky enough to come to Temple Law School as one of their first members of their class of public interest fellows. But I didn't know exactly what it meant. I knew I wanted to do something that made a difference. I wanted to change the world. I never met a public interest lawyer, though as I look back on my childhood, my family surely could have benefited from the help of civil legal services. When I came to law school and was quite frankly intimidated by all the folks who wanted to go to corporate law and all the folks that wanted to go clerk for a judge and do all these things that I just didn't see myself doing. And I had an opportunity to talk to then Karen Foreman, who was our Director of Public Interest at Temple Law School, and she told me about the MLK internship. I met Cynthia Newcomer and I applied for the internship, and then I remember seeing this guy that showed up at every public interest happy hour at law school. You know, this freckle-faced guy, and he was at every one. There was one event that was at Community Legal Services, where we met some of the attorneys there to talk about what public interest careers may be. And I said, well, you know I got my internship, so I might as well share the news with somebody else. And so the next time I saw him in the hallways of Temple, I said, hey, you should consider this internship. And he said, sure. And so we started our internships that summer, and it was a great experience. I got the opportunity to work for Community Legal Services, and Otis, you worked with
Angus.
Angus.
Yeah, okay, so I showed up to all those meetings because I actually knew nothing about public interest law, but I was interested. I grew up, reading a lot about the civil rights movement, so I thought that I'm gonna go to law school, I'm gonna be a civil rights attorney, I'm gonna be the next Thurgood Marshall. And then I got to law school and realized it wasn't really that easy. It don't work like that, right? So I started hearing a lot about, and Karen Foreman was really good, at getting the word out about, all the different opportunities in the public interest sector. So I'm showing up to all the meetings, and Donna was there, and she's always been and still is like one of the nicest and kindest people that you'll ever meet. And she literally walked up to me in the hallway. I'm minding my own business. I think it was set up. But I'm minding my own business, and she said, I got this opportunity for you. It's called the MLK internship. I didn't know what it was, but Donna brought it to me, so I said, okay, right, give me the information.
So great, we started our summer here, and it was a great summer. I remember, I think perhaps our final reception. Well, let me back up a little bit, because summers are a great time to find summer love. And I'll be honest, Otis wasn't the one who caught my eye.
Yeah. It was another guy
from Howard Law School. I was trying to go out. We were going out one day to dance, and I wanted to just go out with the guy from Howard, and Otis kept tagging along. Like, he wouldn't leave. I didn't have any space. And so when we came back towards the end of the summer, and I tried to get this guy Howard's phone from Howard Law School phone number. His name was Will, right?
His name was Will, yeah.
I said, hey, Will, now you're going back to Howard. I'd really like to get your number. He's like, but aren't you with him? I'm like, who's him?
Because everybody else knew she was with me but her.
I love it.
Apparently, it's like the guy that's always behind you. That guy. And so I remember just finally taking notice of someone, and I took a poll from everybody else in the MLK internship that summer, whether I should go out on a date with this guy. And so overwhelmingly, he got the thumbs up.
Everybody else knew.
But one of the other things I remember from that summer is that while we were both back in Philadelphia doing our internships, we would meet after these brown bag lunches, these public interest brown bag lunches.
CLS.
I was at CLS. He was at the Institute Law Project.
Yes.
And he would invite me down to Chinatown, and we would have these extensive after lunch brown bag lunches, just the two of us. And then I was still in denial for several more months. Yeah.
We were dating for about 6 months.
No, we weren't. We were friends who watched a lot of TV together and washed clothes together and studied together, ate together, but we weren't dating. No, we weren't dating. But our law school careers took us on to other internship opportunities. I found an opportunity to work with Roberta West and David Travesk. I always pronounced your last name wrong, but David, you know I love you. And other opportunities there, and had an opportunity to go back to my hometown in New Jersey to work for their legal services, and then found this space where I didn't quite know yet what I wanted to do in public interest law. I got really great grades in classes like tax law and corporate law and real estate law, and I was like, how do I save the world with taxes? Because that's what I wanted to do. I see the thumbs up. I loved tax law. Fell in love with all of the code. I loved it. And so had an opportunity to work for the Center for Community Nonprofit Organizations, which was a clinic at Temple at the time. And right at the time of my graduation, CLS was looking for an Equal Justice Works applicant to start a child care law project. And it was the perfect fit for me. I loved working with community legal services. It felt like a family. My mom was a home-based child care provider, and it married all of the interests that I had in real estate and tax law and corporate law and working with these small businesses. And so I had a great opportunity to work with community legal services. I graduated, and Otis had one more year left at law school, and he had several internships. I think he worked 3 jobs every semester.
At the same time. But working for Angus, is Angus, where's Angus in the room?
I think he left early.
Did he leave? Working for Angus for that summer was really life-changing for me, because it kind of gave me the confidence that I needed to do this. I'm a poor kid from a poor neighborhood in Philly, and the only thing I wanted to do is do something meaningful for the people that needed the most and where I came from. And when I got to law school, it was like this whole other world that didn't have anything to do with what I was trying to do. And I began to become unsure about whether the legal profession was the profession for me. And it was that internship in Angus's office that reaffirmed why I was doing what I was doing. And not only that, but that I could actually do it. And Angus actually steered me towards the public defender's office. He said, Otis, you would make a great PD. You don't need to be sitting up in the office writing briefs. What you need to be doing, you need to be in the courtroom. So I did my next internship at the Philly PD's office. Then I picked up another internship with the federal PD's office. So I was working for the city PD and the federal PD. And I was also doing some work for a private attorney. So I was getting a lot of experience in law school. But it really was that first internship with Angus, and it was perfect. I guess I can say this now that he's not in the room. PILP wasn't even my first choice. I actually wanted to work at Community Legal Services, but Donna already had a job. Right, she's always Gladys Knight. I'm the PIP.
My favorite PIP, though. One of my first, I guess not first experience, one of the things I took from my internship at Community Legal Services, I worked in our elder law unit. I always remember a client who was an elderly client that came in, and she would come in every week with this bag, and it was her mail for the week. And every week she came, and she sat at my desk, and my job was to read her mail and figure out what needed to happen. Some of it was junk mail, some of it was someone trying to buy her house, some of it was actually things we needed to follow up on. And what I took from that experience every week was that this was real life, first year, spot the issues. This is what it looks like. It doesn't come in a perfect case or summary. This is how you spot the issue. She didn't know what her issues were. She couldn't read. She didn't know if there were any problems, and Miss Mary and I would sit down every week and go through her mail. But it's that lesson and that experience that I took with me after I left Community Legal Services and had an opportunity to do the same work, working with nonprofit organizations and small businesses at a private firm, and then working in City Council with Council President Clark. When we saw constituents coming in every day with issues, and I would tell my interns and I would tell other staff that work with me, your job is to spot the issue. Your job is to figure out how you can help someone, because a lot of times folks came in and they really didn't know where to start or what the issue was. They just knew they were overwhelmed with whether it was a bill or losing their children or not having utilities or rent, and they just needed help. And sometimes if you just work through every piece of mail or calling through every agency and going through every issue with that person, that client, that constituent, that's that lesson you learned your first year of law school, spotting that issue, and that's how we were able to help folks. One of the other things that I always think about in my career is a lesson that I learned in a class that was taught by Stephen Presser before he passed away. And Stephen Presser taught a public interest class at Temple. And the question he always asked was, who's the public and what is their interest? And depending if you were the DA's office or a public defender, if you worked as a housing attorney or like me representing housing providers, understanding who's the public and what is their interest. And I don't know about you, Otis, but every step of my career, again, whether I was at Community Legal Services in City Hall, and now as an elected official, I am often asking myself, who is the public? What are their interests? What are we trying to solve here? And as you look at your careers and as you move forward, I hope that you look at those same things and ask those same questions. Sometimes that public may not look like what you think it is. Give you sort of a...
It's actually that question that led me to be a nonprofit that cannot practice law. Who is the public and what is their interest, and how can you have bigger and greater impact on the people that you're trying to serve? And what I found when I interned for the PD's office for 3 years, I was there so much they thought I worked there. They didn't know that I didn't work there. You weren't allowed to engage in politics, and I didn't understand why. I'm like, the DA does. Why don't the public defender, right? The DA engage in politics to help shape policies to support their position. Why don't the public defender? And actually, that's what led me to I thought I would be a lifelong public defender, but instead, my first job out of law school, which was actually in city council as a legislative aide. So instead of going in and getting your back kicked in, with walls that are all stacked up against you, I have an opportunity to participate in the process to change these laws. So that's how I ended up in government and politics. I was actually in government and politics before Donna was. And Donna was doing nonprofit work. And now, 18 years later, we switched. So now she's a politician, I'm doing nonprofit work, right?
Yeah, and I think both of our experiences, we saw the opportunities when we worked in government to work with our friends and colleagues that were still at legal services agencies. I know you worked with folks like Monty Wilson
Yep.
at Community Legal Services, and I still engage all of the legal services attorney at Community Legal Services to, whether we're working on legislation around wages, and I work with India Hufka, or around, right now I'm working on a natural hair braiding licensing law with a young aspiring attorney at Community Legal Services. I've been talking to Patrick Cicero in the room about community solar. And so being able to have those conversations with friends to say, hey, am I getting this right? What are, I know the politics behind it, but how will this hurt people that I really care about? How will this hurt people back home? And to be able to have those conversations to make sure that I'm looking at those issues as a legislator is very helpful. And to know that I have experts in the room that are my friends that are willing to sit down and have those conversations with me and talk to me about the details or the impact that legislation can have. And whether you're staff to an elected official like Otis was for Councilwoman Janie Blackwell, like I was for Councilman Clark, or now as the elected official myself, my experiences as in the public interest sector have lent itself very well to that job. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You're much more informed, but then you all have allies in government and in politics, which is really unusual. So having those connections, like even with Monty, man, this was like maybe, we're really getting old. It was like maybe about 13, 14 years ago. where a lot of people's homes were getting taken because the city had gotten really aggressive on tax liens. And a lot of low-income people couldn't afford to hold on to their homes. And CLS and PLA, but Monty in particular, Monty Wilson, was like leading the effort to try to stop it. And at that time, I was in Janie Blackwell's office. And Janie Blackwell was the majority leader, and she was very powerful at that point in time. And what I was able to do for Monty is like organize a meeting with the mayor and the city solicitor and also the council president Berna at the time, to put together some legislation to put a hold on those tax liens. I felt very good about myself, obviously, but having that ally, having Monty and CLS to be able to come to me and be like, hey, this is a problem, and actually being able to do something about it because you're sitting there on the inside, felt really good. Something I couldn't do as just a public interest attorney. So it really did help.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how we're doing on time.
Yeah, how much time do we have?
We really haven't been tracking it.
Oh, okay, so
Okay,
keep
okay.
talking.
But I want to come and
Oh,
recognize you.
well, give me a minute. Give me a
Okay.
minute. I got a little more love to share with this man. But I, so we've had these really great careers, and I think what has been great about going down this career path is to have a partner along with you that was encouraging, that had been there since the beginning, and who shared the same values and understood what your goals were in your career. That at the end of the day, for us, it was always about helping others. It was always about making our community better. We made a choice as a very young couple to move into the Strawberry Mansion community of North Philadelphia. When we first looked at our house,
It was abandoned.
It was abandoned and boarded up with graffiti. And one of our friends was like, "You're not buying a house." And we're like, "No, it's gonna be renovated." It was a first-time home buyer program, and we were excited to move into a community where Otis grew up not too far from, and a neighborhood that we said that was very much like the neighborhoods we grew up in, and we felt that oftentimes we tell young people that if you get your education, get it and move out of that neighborhood, and we felt quite the opposite, that we should stay in neighborhoods like that and show value of that neighborhood and show the children of that neighborhood that it had value, because subliminally you're telling them that the neighborhood doesn't have value and you're not worth staying there. And so we've been able to stay there for the last 15 years, raise our children, continue our careers, and use our legal services experiences, not just in our professional lives, but also in our everyday life. I can't tell you how many times both of us are stopped on the corners
All the time. They knock on our door.
whether it's a custody matter or a housing matter. We just had neighbors who are public housing tenants whose home caught on fire, and we were able to make the connections to make sure that they had safe housing afterwards. So those services that we're able to provide just on the street, every day that we wake up, and we have a love for doing that. We've loved serving our city together. We loved raising our children together. And Sam, I blame you for this. I do, because you gave us the opportunity to be a part of this fellowship, internship, 18 years ago.
18 years ago.
18 years ago, and an opportunity to sit at, tables together and sit through workshops together, and that was a great experience. I want to thank Sam and Cynthia, who were a part of the team back then, for giving us that opportunity to be a part of the MLK internship, and also to continue this opportunity for many others. I know there were some Temple law students in the room, so woo-hoo. And all of the law students that are here, we hope that you will find a love and a passion for the work that you do, but also know that that work can lead you to other places. You are brilliant. You care obviously about the people that you serve and you use your legal skills for. And I think both of us agreed when we went to law school, we wanted to take that skill set back into our neighborhoods and share it so we can uplift our communities. It's called the MLK internship, so I think you have to kind of end with a quote from MLK, and there are plenty to choose from. I'll say for me, one of the quotes that I think summarizes my career is that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. I don't know if you have one.
Do Do I have one?
Do you have one?
Well, I gotta go with the drum major because a few years ago, I won a drum major award. So I'm gonna go with that. If you wanna say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness. And all the other shallow things will not matter. To me, that's the heart of what, public interest work is about. It doesn't matter where you do it, what organization you work for, but if you do it with that in your heart, then it's all good.
Thank you for allowing us to share our.